And yeah, you're right. We have a absolutely horrendous drug problem here. Um, I mean, because like you said, you ran for office, you have a bit of taste of like New Mexico politics firsthand.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's a priority for the politicians here in the state? I mean,
The drug problem?
yeah,
Um, so after kind of going behind the scenes, learning more about it, it's really tough to say. So I do think there are a lot of politicians really wanting to fix the problem, but then there's a lot of people they say they do, and then they get in office, and then they,
they just want a
it's
job.
back to usual. Yeah, I mean it's really frustrating the amount of people that are like, we want change, and we want someone different, but then we keep electing the same people or people that are handpicked by their best friend.
Yeah,
It, I won't get into that. But that's kind of unfortunately how it is.
yeah,
So people might be very disconnected from the problem. They don't see it as much. They haven't had any experiences with it. So they're like, oh, it's not that bad of a problem. Everything's great here.
right.
Yeah, well, go downtown and talk to some people in some of these homeless camps, and you'll realize that the majority of them are addicted to drugs, or they have a mental health issue, and they're just not even there.
Yeah, no, it's sad. It's legitimate. I mean, going down just Broadway right there,
Yeah,
just you hit, we're on Fifth, so like Fifth, Fourth, going all the way down to University.
yeah,
Right? It's just littered with tents and camps. It's very sad. And I actually, up until the beginning of this year, I lived on the Northeast Heights, and I mean, and I hate phrasing it like this because it sounds ugly, but like it's spreading. Like even to, like the nice parts of town, quote unquote, it like the homeless population is growing so much that it's just spreading.
all right,
And it seems like, I mean, obviously COVID just accelerated everything. Like everything
right,
bad, it just
yeah,
got ramped up. But it's just interesting. You bring up a very good point where people want change, but they vote for the same person. And
the
again,
equivalent.
yeah, yeah. And unfortunately, like you could apply that same mindset with homelessness to the policing problems that we have,
Yeah,
where, I remember to specifically name him when Keller first ran for election, it was, I'm going to reform APD. We're going to do all these great things. And the biggest change, and I have friends that are in APD, I have friends that are in the
yeah,
staters in Bernalillo County. Like the biggest change that APD got was they got a better starting pay after probation
right,
and a DOJ investigation.
right,
That's all they got.
yeah.
So I don't know. It's just strange to me.
And I have talked to a lot of people. They've also said, well, we've got all this training as well, which has been great. And it's interesting. You talk to some police and they're like, yeah, this has been great. The training has been great because we do need more training. And then others are just like, we don't need it. We don't want it. But, if you're up to date on what's been going on in Albuquerque the last week or so, they do need training. It's obvious. We need training.
Yeah.
And, this is not a political thing. This is an issue.
No, it's an issue nationwide because
Yeah.
it admittedly is becoming increasingly hard, but I am pro police. I want,
Yeah.
like, I want
I mean,
police
I'm
to
pro
succeed.
police,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I want police to succeed. Obviously, I
Yep.
think defunding or getting rid of police officers is a very poor idea.
Agreed.
Because I mean, like, let's say like here in Albuquerque, the two biggest private companies for security are IPS and like Securitas or whatever they're called, like
Yeah.
the three dot symbol.
Yep.
So what if they replace the police? Do people want that? Of course not.
No.
Of course not.
I mean, as it is, we're having to pay for police to add extra security in different areas. So, like right now, we're starting this new thing in downtown Albuquerque where we're bringing in more police, but we have to pay them more as well.
Right.
Well, so that's also taking away from big box stores. So they're not happy about that because unfortunately, we don't have enough cops in our city. I wish we did. That's a whole other bag of worms. But it's a can of worms.
Yeah, and so for people who don't know, the crime got so bad about 6 years ago when they started doing it, where they put like APD in front of Best Buys, in front of Targets.
And they're paying them actually. So Best Buy, all these big box stores, they pay them.
Oh wow.
They are paying them. So that's the thing now. So there's this big focus on downtown Albuquerque because they've seen an increase in crime there, and as things go, like if crime goes down there and they see an uptick in different areas, they're going to put them in different areas. but they are getting paid more for that. So
Interesting.
that's not they're just going there for
Right.
funsies or anything.
So how long has that uptick been going on, to your knowledge? Do you know?
I mean, just this year, I'll
Yeah.
say we're on track to have a new homicide rate, homicide record.
Oh,
I mean, frankly, it's frustrating. Like I love my city.
yeah.
When I see people leave, I get very sad, because I want our city to succeed. And I think in order to do that, we the people need to make that happen.
Yeah.
And, use our voices to speak up. I don't care what side of the aisle you're on. Like, we all need to make our voice heard. Because these are issues that affect us. And maybe it doesn't affect you today, but it might affect you tomorrow. The crime, everyone's like, well, I'm good. I never go downtown. It's like, yeah, but it's creeping in different areas.
Exactly. It's spreading. And you're not the first person to say, like, the more I talk to people that genuinely enjoy Albuquerque, or at least at a bare minimum see the potential in Albuquerque, they all say the same thing.
Yep.
We're watching people leave. We're watching I've been able to talk to a lot of people here in like the entertainment, like comedy industry, or like scene here. And they're like, yeah, we have great talent, but there are so many people flying out, leaving. They're all going to Austin, to Denver, to Phoenix,
Florida.
Tucson, Florida. Oh yeah, they're going everywhere. But here, and they don't even care about cost of living anymore.
Yeah.
They just want to be able to like not be afraid.
Yeah.
Like I'm starting to go out every now and again a little bit more, but for the longest time I was just like, I got past that first phase of being 21 and legal, being able to go out and
Right.
legally drink. But recently, it's just been, even before the pandemic, I was just like, well, sure, it's nice to have fun and go out, but what's the risk?
Yeah.
Because I was actually just having this conversation yesterday with a friend of mine. Like, people just, whenever conflict happens, even if booze isn't involved, people
Yeah.
start shooting.
Yeah.
The days of street fight, not that I advocate for street fighting, but the days of street fighting.
It's better than guns.
Yeah.
I mean,
No, people, like everyone, I just saw your sticker. That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
yes.
That's hilarious.
If you're listening, I have a water container here with tons of stickers. So, yeah.
But no, the days of just street fighting is over. Everyone has a gun, everyone has a knife. And there was like a very horrific video that me and my friend were watching, and the guy just thinks he's big and tough, and the other dude's backing away, clearly has training, just right in the neck, and it just happens. It's very unfortunate. So to kind of pivot away from murder,
Yeah.
when you were running for office, what did you run for?
So I ran for Bernalillo County Commission. It was something I actually was interested in running 4 years ago.
Okay.
And frankly, because my current county commissioner, I feel like wasn't doing enough for like the west side. I personally didn't feel heard. There are lots of things that I was trying to bring up, never got a call back. And just wasn't the right time. And then fast forward 4 years later, I'm like, you know what, maybe I'll do it. And honestly, I should have, 4 years ago started planning, for this election, but I didn't. Life happens and you forget. And then
We did go through a pandemic, so there's that too.
This little thing that happened in 2020, right? We're still kind of going through. And it came up, and I was watching to see who was going to run, and the one Democrat that was running, I mean, she was handpicked by somebody, and I was like, we'll see. I don't know.
Right.
I couldn't really get 100% behind her, so I was like, well, I'll put my hand in the ring and whatever. Name in the ring.
Yeah.
Gosh, let me figure out how to talk. At the end of the day, I just can't think. So yeah, I mean, I tried. I went in. Again, this is not something I was like, I'm going to make a career out of my political role if I win. This is just because I want to make a difference, as cheesy as that sounds. This is my community I love, and I want to see a difference in my community, specifically around drugs, homelessness, crime, like all these little issues we have. Again, not saying I'm gonna cure or fix any of that, but I had some great ideas, and I think that there's still things that I can work on just as a constituent with others, and whoever wins as my county commissioner now, because I lost. But We'll see. We'll see. I have high hopes. So like I said, I did not win. But I'm a person that deals with failure a lot in my life. And I feel like I've only become stronger and a better person because of it. And I feel like I'm still recovering. It's been like a few weeks since the election, but that becomes your life, you
Oh,
know.
I could not even imagine.
Um, yeah, I mean, when I was like, yeah, it won't be that bad. And then it's like weekends, every weekend, going out, talking to people, going house to house, store knocking, going to events, like doing all the things. It's exhausting. And I'm an introvert. I love to go out and talk to people, but by the end of the day, I am tired. That's just
Right.
how I am. So that, yeah, it was a lot. So by the end of it, when I didn't win, like if it was a close race, I'd be more disappointed, but it wasn't. She beat me by a lot. And it was, frankly, it was really disappointing just to see how the election played. This is a county race, and to see how ugly it got against me was crazy. Like just tons of lies. Like, I wasn't a Democrat enough. I donated to a friend years ago who's a Republican, a friend. So I got painted as reporting Trump's Republican Party. Like just silly stuff like that. And I'm just like, what? And then there were some lies, like blatant lies, that I was just like, really? Like, this is what we're doing against your own party to win a seat? And then I had people even tell me like, well, you need to do this and you need to do that and fire back and mudslinging's how you win. I'm like, no, it's not. Like for me, I'm like, if that means I lose, I'm fine with that. Like I am not going to be that person to bring down another woman. I don't know her. Like I never even met her. But I have enough respect to not be that person. Like that's a no-go for me.
So there's a lot of what you just said that I want to really get into. So, which is great. Which is awesome. So what I found like really interesting about you when I first found you, because I found you through social media,
Yeah.
which is a beautiful, well, it's a double-edged sword
Scary
today.
and beautiful.
Yeah. But the fact that you did decide to run for county commissioner, where a lot of people, they don't even know what that is.
Yeah.
Like a lot of people just care about, like maybe they care about a senator or a congressman, but in reality it's like, okay, who's the governor? Okay, they make laws. Who's the president? Okay, they really make bad decisions. Like nobody will ever fully love a president.
Yeah.
But so you bring up a lot of really good points. Like we do have horrible problems with homelessness and crime and drugs. So what does a county commissioner do to help influence change in that?
Yeah. So one of the biggest things they're responsible for is like mental health dollars, the detention center downtown. So they have responsibilities over a lot of those funds. So one thing that I actually did learn that is great. It's kind of a hidden treasure, unfortunately. But there's a mental health center, not downtown, but more southeast, where you can just walk in if have a drug problem, mental health problem, or if you just need to sober up. They offer like lots of help and assistance, even like a 6-month program for a place to stay and live and go through a program.
And where's this at?
I actually took a tour of it recently. Fabulous place. Like I didn't even know about it. Which I was like, we need this, and they're like, oh, we actually do have it. Well, that's good to know.
And you can come in not sober. Like you don't have to be sober for 2 weeks or.
No, you just if you are high at the moment, you can. Which that was a major issue years back. Was at some places it's like you have to come in high, like you can't be clean for 2 days or whateve. Like stupidest shit I've ever heard.
You have to be high.
Yeah. You've been clean for too long, but if you shoot up, you can bring them in. Like that's what they would say. Yeah, I dealt with someone who was going through that years ago, and it was the most crazy asinine thing I've ever heard.
That is perplexing, to say it nicely.
Yeah, which I'm like, no wonder like we have issues. But
what the fuck?
So now, like, I will say, like, yeah, that's great. We have that. I do think we need more of that because they can only hold so many people.
Please continue. I'm just going to check the cameras.
Yeah. I think we also need, we have a street teams that actually go to places like if one thing that you brought up like defunding the police earlier. So part of that, it's not defunding, but like getting funds to actually like send these groups instead of police. So like if someone's having an episode, for example, and they're not harmful to anyone, this street team will come out and talk to them, do an intake with them, and take them at that moment to get help.
So that's actually a very interesting point. And I'm glad you brought that up because I have never had someone explain to me, how does that work?
Yeah.
Because at least in my mind's eye and the people that I've talked to about it, it sounds great.
Yeah.
Like that sounds like a great idea, but situations like that, especially if they're under the influence, can go 0 to 100 really fast.
Yep.
And that's when you want police there. You don't want to send like a social worker or whoever these like ground teams are.
Right.
So how, in theory, not necessarily best case scenario, like in theory, how does something like that work?
Yeah. So if somebody's calling and saying, hey, there's this person on the sidewalk, they're having an episode or something, can you send them? They'll usually ask like, do they have a weapon? Like, do they seem safe, like approachable, and then if it's something to where they're like, okay, we can go talk to them. But yes, if they seem dangerous or if they do anything to seem dangerous, they will call the police.
Yeah. It just worries me sometimes because of how violent Albuquerque in general can be.
Yeah. And there are people, like I've had situations where people run after me and you don't know, like what, if they have something in their pocket or, if they're really harmful or what, but I mean, I think though there are situations where it can be helpful for sure. The problem though is you can't force anyone to get help, right? So you can do everything you want, but if at the end of the day, they're like, no, I'm good. And that's how a lot of people are. I mean, I actually took time to kind of talk to some people, like, early on my election, just to kind of get a sense of like what people are going through. And I talked to quite a few people that are like, I'm good. I sober up once a month. I get my check and then I get back at it.
Yeah, it's scary.
And it's a cycle.
So, and by get a check, I'm assuming you're talking about like the government assistance.
Social Security.
Social Security, right. So, and there's a lot of talk about, like government assistance reform where you have to be sober. If you need any kind of like food stamps, or WIC, or what's the last one? I forget what it's called. But if
like
you need
food stamps or something.
It's a lot of acronyms.
Yeah.
But if you need any of those government assistance, right, anything that's taxpayer funded, you need to submit to a drug test. Do you think that's feasible here? Do you think that's actually a possibility? Because
honestly, no.
Because I was gonna say, I feel like that's a great idea.
Yeah, it sounds like a great idea in theory, but then when you get down to the nitty gritty of like controlling a person and saying you only get this money if you do this,
that is how your poverty rates skyrocket in this state. Unfortunately,
no. I mean, I've seen it.
Yeah.
I mean, I've actually talked to people who are friends who, they're like, oh, I'm doing so good. But, if I get paid more, like they've actually turned down raises because if they go over that threshold, they lose all their benefits. And then they aren't making enough. I mean, even with the salary and with the raise, they still aren't able to afford putting food on the table and all these things.
Right.
So it's really frustrating. I mean, I think there needs to be a reform with that. So we really encourage people to grow, with their career and whatever they want to do, but not, oh, well, let's hold you back. Like, I mean, I get it. Like, if I was in that situation, I would probably do the same thing.
I completely agree.
But yeah, it's really hard. That's a whole federal reform that needs to happen, but it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of years for that to happen. So is it really going to happen anytime soon? Probably not. Whenever we talk about anything that is more than 4 or 8 years outside of an election cycle, like, good luck.